George Castriot (1405–17 January 1468), known as Skanderbeg, was an Albanian nobleman and military commander, who served the Ottoman Empire in 1423–43, the Republic of Venice in 1443–47, and lastly the Kingdom of Naples until his death. After leaving Ottoman service, Skanderbeg always signed himself as Lord of Albania, and claimed no other titles but that in official documents. A member of the noble Castrioti family, he was sent as a political hostage to the Ottoman court, where he was educated and entered the service of the Ottoman Sultan for the next 20 years. He rose through the ranks, culminating in the appointment as sanjakbey of the Sanjak of Dibra in 1440. In 1443, he deserted the Ottomans during the Battle of Nis and became the ruler of Krulia, Svetrograd, and Modric. In 1444, he was appointed the chief commander of the short-lived League of Lets that consolidated nobility throughout what is today Albania. Despite his military valor, he was not able to do more than to hold his own possessions within the very small area in northern Albania where almost all of his victories against the Ottomans took place. Skanderbeg's rebellion was not a general uprising of Albanians, due to the fact that he did not gain support in the Ottoman-controlled south or Venetian-controlled north. His followers included, apart from Albanians, also Slavs, Vlachs, and Greeks. For 25 years, from 1443 to 1468, Skanderbeg's 10,000-man army marched through Ottoman territory, winning against consistently larger and better supplied Ottoman forces, for which he was admired. In 1451, he recognized de jure the suzerainty of the Kingdom of Naples through the Treaty of Gaeta, to ensure a protective alliance, although he remained a de facto independent ruler. In 1460–61, he participated in Italy's civil wars in support of Ferdinand I of Naples. In 1463, he became the chief commander of the crusading forces of Pope Pius II, but the Pope died while the armies were still gathering. Together with Venetians, he fought against the Ottomans during the Ottoman-Venetian War until his death in January 1468. Skanderbeg's military skills presented a major obstacle to Ottoman expansion, and he was considered by many in Western Europe to be a model of Christian resistance against the Ottoman Muslims. Name: in 1450, his full name was written in Old Slavic Cyrillic as Turad Castriot. In 1463, his name was written in Latin as Zorzi Kastrioti. In the contemporary Slavic chancellery in Albania, his given name was written as Turadan Thord. Gjrgj is the Albanian equivalent of the name George. Charles du Fresne, writing in Latin, used Georgius Castriotus Skanderbegus in his work. The original Latin form, Castrioti, is rendered in modern Albanian historiography as Castrioti. C.C. Moore in his biographical work on Skanderbeg used Castriot. The name is derived from the Latin castrum via the Greek word kappa alpha sigma tau rho omicron. According to Fannoli, the surname is a toponym of Castriot in modern northeastern Albania. The Ottoman Turks gave him the name Skanderbeg, meaning Lord Alexander or Leader Alexander, which has been rendered as Skanderbeg or Skanderbeg in the English versions of his biographies, and Skanderbeo is the Albanian version. In the 1450 letter in Slavic and Cyrillic sent to Ragusa by Skanderbeg, he was signed as, and in 1459 as, Latinized in Barletti's version as Skanderbegi and translated into English as Skanderbeg. The combined appellative is assumed to have been a comparison of Skanderbeg's military skill to that of Alexander the Great. Early life: Castrioti was born in one of the two villages owned by his grandfather Pal Castrioti. There have been many theories on the place where Skanderbeg was born. One of the main Skanderbeg biographers, Frasheri, has, among other, interpreted Gjon Musaka's Book of Genealogies, sources of Raphael Maffei, and the Ottoman death.A of 1467, and has placed the birth of Skanderbeg in the small village. Van Noli's placement of the year of birth in 1405 is now largely agreed upon after earlier disagreements, and lack of birth documents for him and his siblings. Skanderbeg's father was Gjon Castrioti, Lord of Middle Albania, which included Madmir and Dibra. His mother was Voisava, from the Polog Valley, northwestern part of present-day Republic of Macedonia. There was a total of 9 children, of whom Gjj was the youngest son. His older brothers were Stanisha, Riposh and Konstantin, and his sisters were Mara, Yelena, Angelina, Vlika and Mamika. Gjon Kastrioti had been a vassal of the Sultan since the end of the 14th century, and, as a consequence, paid tribute and provided military services to the Ottomans. In 1409, he sent his eldest son, Stanisha, to be the Sultan's hostage. According to Maran Balchi, a primary source, Skanderbeg and his 3 older brothers, Riposh, Konstantin, and Stanisha, were taken by the Sultan to his court as hostages. However, according to documents, besides Skanderbeg, only one of the brothers of Skanderbeg, probably Stanisha, was taken hostage and had been conscripted into the death.A system, a military institute that enrolled Christian boys, converted them to Islam, and trained them to become military officers. Recent historians are of the opinion that while Stanisha might have been conscripted at a young age, and had to go through the death.A, this was not the case with Skanderbeg, who is assumed to have been sent hostage to the Sultan by his father only at the age of 18. It was in use at the time that in case of a military loss against the Sultan, a local chieftain would send one of his children at the Sultan's court, so that the child would be kept hostage for an unspecified time. The Sultan would this way exercise control in the area of the father by the hostage kept. The treatment of the hostage was not a bad one. Far from being a prison or anything similar, the sons taken hostage would be usually sent to the best military schools and trained to be future military leaders. Ottoman service. Skanderbeg was sent as a hostage to the Ottoman court in Adrianople in 1415, and again in 1423. It is assumed that he remained at Murad I's court as Ikoglan for a maximum of 3 years, where he received military training at Endiran. The earliest existing record of Gjogje's name is the first act of Hilanda from 1426, when Gjon Castrioti and his 4 sons donated the right to the proceeds from taxes collected from 2 villages in Macedonia to the monastery of Hilanda. Afterwards, between 1426 and 1431, Gjon Castrioti and his sons, with the exception of Stanisha, purchased 4 adelphates to the St. George Tower and to some property within the monastery as stated in the second act of Hilanda. After graduating Endiran, the Sultan granted Skanderbeg control over one Timur, which was near the territories controlled by his father. His father was concerned that the Sultan might order Skanderbeg to occupy his territory and informed Venice about this in April 1428. In the same year, Gjon had to seek forgiveness from the Venetian Senate because Skanderbeg participated in Ottoman military campaigns against Christians. In 1430, Gjon was defeated in battle by the Ottoman governor of Skopje, Isabey Evranos, and as a result, his territorial possessions were extremely reduced. Later that year, Skanderbeg continued fighting for Murad II in his expeditions, and gained the title of Sipahi. Several scholars have assumed that Skanderbeg was given a fiefdom in Nikopol in modern Bulgaria, because a certain Skanderbeg is mentioned in a 1430 document holding fiefs there, although Skanderbeg was summoned home by his relatives when George Arianiti and Andrew Thopia along with other chiefs from the region between Vlora and Shkoder organized a rebellion against the Ottoman Empire. He did nothing, remaining loyal to the Sultan. In 1437–38, he became a subasi of the Kru Subaslik before Bey was again appointed to that position in November 1438. Until May 1438, Skanderbeg controlled a relatively large team composed of 9 villages which previously belonged to his father. It was because of Skanderbeg's display of military merit in several Ottoman campaigns that Murat II had given him the title of Vali. At the time, Skanderbeg was leading a cavalry unit of 5,000 men. After his brother Ripoche's death on the 25th of July 1431 and the later deaths of Constantin and Skanderbeg's father, Skanderbeg and his surviving brother Stanisha maintained the relations that the father had with the Republic of Ragusa and the Republic of Venice in 1438 and 1439. They sustained the father's privileges with those states. During the 1438–43 period, he is thought to have been fighting alongside the Ottomans in the European campaigns, mostly against the Christian forces led by Janos Hunyadi. In 1440 Skanderbeg was appointed Sanjak of Dibra. During his stay in Albania as Ottoman governor, he maintained close relations with the population in his father's former properties and also with other Albanian noble families.